So today we're going to talk about design principles. And that's one reason why I thought this might be a good idea this cold morning, because design principles are something that you can just sit and talk about and then do them on your own. So can all of you hear me okay and everything?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right. So design principles. If you were to ask 100 designers what design principles they follow, you would get 100 answers because everybody has kind of got their own impression of what design principles really are. So I'm going to try and make it super simple. The first thing, though, that I want to say is in order to break the rules, which sometimes that's where the best design comes from, is by breaking the rules, but you got to know what the rules are in order to break them. So I don't know why that is not working. There we go. Okay. So I want to make it as simple as I can. I want it to be something that you can remember. And so good design is crap. I know that sounds really silly, but that's a good way to remember it because it's short, it's rememberable. So I that's why I've chose it. So let me give you what I mean by this. Okay, the C stands for contrast. If you have something that's a really dark field and there's one white object in the middle of it, your eye is going to naturally go to that thing that's different. So it's a contrast that draws your eye. And really the purpose of design is to draw your audience's eye to where you want it to be. So you kind of have to lead the audience on. So that's why we use contrast. This has a good example of contrast also, but it's not color necessarily. The hierarchy, and hierarchy is a word that I use a great deal because you've got to have a hierarchy in your design, because if everything is the same size, your audience will not know what to look at first. So in this instance here, we have a hierarchy that contrasts in size from everything else. Salute to Summer is bigger than everything else, and so you automatically look at that first. And so that is a good contrast. Um, you can use color as contrast. On these examples, you can see that this big block of color up here is drawing your eye to what the designer wants you to see first. Uh, Kind of about the team and all that kind of stuff, or it's chapter one. That makes a huge difference whenever instead of having just lots of blocks of text, this tells you where to look first so that you can kind of make some sense of what the graphic designer is trying to communicate. You can even use it for things that are kind of muted in color. Bigger blocks or a smaller block can also be a contrast. R stands for repetition. Now, that could mean just a number of things that are exactly the same put in an array, and you use those graphic images as a repetition. But really, in the instance of design, what we're talking about in repetition is using the same graphic ideas and the same fonts and the same colors to create repetition. You'll notice on the left-hand side here, none of these three are exactly alike, but let's talk about the things that are the same, the things that they repeat from one to the next. This could be a series of posters, it could be an ad, a series of ads, it could be a series of whatever you want, whatever you can think of. But the first thing that draws my eye is that they are using the same font. This is the same font. It's all the same size. It's not the same colors necessarily, but there are three colors they're using, and so they're just using one of those colors. And another thing is that they all are on the same line. So as you turn a page in a book, or you see the next ad, you can see that those things are consistent. The other thing that's consistent in these are the use of lines. Now they're using some that are just slightly different, but they're all the same weight and all the same color. Some are horizontal, some are vertical, some are at a cross angle, but they're all lines. And then, of course, these organic shapes that they're using, those are all there's either one or two colors, and they're using the same thing on each page. There's two of them, and they're both the same colors. not the same shape, but they're in the same family. So that kind of repetition in a magazine or a book design or something like that, you can see that each one of these are related to each other, even though they aren't. They're like brothers. You know, brothers don't necessarily look like each other, but there's always those traits that you can see that is genetic. It's just in its DNA that they are similar. Over on the right-hand side, we have, of course, one of the first posters from over here. And then these are also using the words, and they're using lines, and they're using the organic shapes, but they have dropped the color. The color is different on each one of the pages. The lines are thicker, or they're wavy, or it's just totally different. They don't use the same font. This font and this font don't match in size or style or color or weight. So that the one on the right is not using repetition. These would have to be from three separate publications, three separate companies for ads, whatever you want to classify those as. So that is how repetition is used in good design. So whenever you're doing repetition, it's repeating the elements. You can repeat colors, you can repeat shapes and textures, spatial relations, how close is something to another thing? How is it on the same line? Is it all kind of in alignment? The line thickness, you saw how much of a difference that made on those examples. And just the concepts altogether. If you're going to use straight lines on one, you've got to use straight lines on them all. And the fonts. I am a big believer in using, if I want fonts to make a statement, but I don't want fonts to overpower. And so I stick to using as few fonts as I possibly can. One to two is pretty normal for me. You can use up to three and still be just fine. But if you start using any more than three fonts in the same poster, the same business card, invitation, book, you start losing a little bit of the design impact. It just makes it more confusing. Um, we'll talk more about that when we get into InDesign. And of course, the hierarchy of sizes. You want the most important thing to be bigger than the rest of the text and that sort of thing. But you've got to be consistent and repeat those throughout your project. A stands for alignment. So we're going to talk about alignment because alignment is something that you have to choose when you're working in InDesign. The example on the left has a flush left alignment on this part. I'm assuming this is a business card. Um, so you can see that everything is lined up on the left on this one. These bars, the name, everything is lined up. And then they've got the same spacing. This is aligned on the right. So it's nice and aligned and it's very organized. This one, however, is very confusing. See, these bars here don't match up. It's just sort of like thrown in there. It looks like somebody had pieces of paper that they just threw onto a square and they stayed where they landed. Same with this one. Very, very confusing looking. I mean, the logo is not even next to the name. You've got to have the alignment so that you know what belongs to the other. Okay, come on. There we go. So let's talk about the different kinds of alignment that there are. I was naming left and right and all that kind of stuff. Well, here are examples of left alignment. So you'll notice that everything is just all aligned on the left-hand side. That is called flush left. So when you're working in InDesign, and really those other programs we've worked on also had this, but I wanted to really stress uh, typography in InDesign, which we will start next week. This is an alignment that is used a great deal. And you'll notice that whenever you're using flush left, the right side is kind of ragged. It doesn't go to the same place. It just kind of goes until the last word is written, and then it goes to the next line and so on. This is very easy to read. I would say that, in my opinion, this is the easiest to read for text. So you can see that this is all lined up together. This one is slightly different. They've changed this headline over to, it's kind of centered, but it's not really centered because you can see that centered would be more about like right here, and this is kind of over here. So that kind of distracts. You can see how it is much more um, pleasing and easier to read with everything in alignment like that. You don't have to use it strictly along the left-hand side. You can have columns that have the right the flush left and the right is ragged. Okay. The next one is a right alignment, and that's where everything lines up on the right-hand side. I think that in certain cases that right alignment is more dynamic than left because left is expected. Right is kind of one of those things that's like, oh, refreshing and it's different. So you can see how all of the text is lined up on the right, but all these other images are lined up, but they're kind of in a crazy way. The squares are on the tip, making more of a diamond shape. But the designer was very clever because notice how the text is going in kind of a diamond shape as well. So you can kind of see how the right alignment can really be a dynamic feature in a design. Same as over here. Notice we've got the right alignment right here, and it's just spaced really well. It's just really unexpected, and it's just a nice design. However, if you took it and you centered everything, um, I would say that it's not nearly as dynamic. It's very expected, and I just don't think that it has as good of a design impact as the one that's flush right. Alignment center. Now, center alignment is kind of like the go-to for everybody. If you're designing an ad or if you're designing a poster, and you maybe it's like the first poster you've ever done, going for a center alignment is kind of like the low-hanging fruit. It's the first thing that you think of to do. However, it can be used really successfully. I would say that this ad right here is, we're using a center alignment, but it's offset by some things that are asymmetrical instead of it being just like same on either side. You know how we were cutting the wine glass in half so we could have a totally symmetrical drawing. Well, this is not symmetrical because it's got things to counterbalance. It's got something here but nothing here. It's just a really good use of centered alignment. And then we have this invitation. It's a save the date invitation, and all of the text is centered. You've got your hierarchy so that you look at the most important things to begin with. But the thing that sets this off and makes it a successful design, because you could have had just a plain blank piece of paper and had the same information, and it would have been just fine. But the designer put all of these asymmetrical shapes behind the this centered alignment. So it kind of gives it an unexpected feeling. Unexpected is a good thing when you're designing things. Okay, the final kind of alignment in typography is justification. And I want to say that personally, I am not a fan of it. And this really shows why. I don't like hyphenated words to begin with. I don't like for words to be broken off in the middle and half of it continuing on the next line. I think that just looks messy and it's harder to read. So I'm not a fan of that. Just putting that out there for you guys to know. Um, but this is why I don't like justification because they are not using hyphenation. The only way to make the only way that justification looks correct is if you split the words in half so it can adjust itself. Because justify is flush right, a flush left, and flush right. It's totally even on both sides of the text. And so you can see over here how that can look. It's a nice solid block of text. But if it's too small of a column, you get things like this. You get these huge gaps between words. Even when it's not quite so big, it's still a gap, and you can start having shapes show up in your your text, and you don't want that. Or you can have one word, and this is Greek, so of course you can't necessarily read this because you're not supposed to. But anyway, you can see that it can take one word and make it stretch over the whole column, which I just think that looks hugely messy. But if you use a larger space like this, a bigger uh, type block, it can work okay. You can still see some spaces that are bigger, but at least it's not so obvious as this. So anyway, um, that's justification. There are times you have to use it. There are certain journals of higher learning and that sort of thing that they want things justified. I don't know. It's just a preference. And I don't prefer I prefer not to do this, but it is out there and you might have to use it at some point. Okay, P stands for proximity. And what I mean by proximity is if you took a handful of dice and rolled it onto a table and just let them scatter where they are, there's really not much meaning. I mean, the numbers would mean something, but if we're just rolling blank things, it would mean absolutely nothing. Proximity is when you take it and you put them together, like have the same distance between the sides and the bottom so that all of them are exactly 100% uh, lined up like this. This takes on meaning now. I mean, think of all the things you could call this. You could call it a Rubik's Cube. You could call it a window, tic-tac-toe. I don't know if that's a thing anymore, but now it has a meaning. This has no meaning other than just random squares, but this does have a meaning now. Same is true if you use shapes other than squares. Now this is some kind of symbol I've seen on printers. I don't know, I don't remember exactly off the top of my head what it is, but that has more meaning. It could be a bunch of apples stacked on top of each other. It could be cannonballs if you're a history buff. So basically taking shapes that are related and putting them in some sort of arrangement is proximity. So this is another example of proximity. On this side, just glancing at that, that could be, I mean, not reading the words, just looking at the text, the shape of the text, that could look like it was a grocery list. It could be anything. It could be a to-do list. There's really not any visual cues as to what it is. But on the right, you see that they've highlighted the options and made it a different color. And now, oh, that's a menu. You can tell what it is because it has some meaning. Okay, I need to make sure I've got time because I may be running a little short, but I'm going to try and hurry. Okay, so that's using proximity to separate things that are alike, like putting alike things together. Same as here. Um, if you deconstruct this image right here, and just put it in its basic spaces as basic shapes, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense until you put it together. Same as this, they have each different idea, each different bit of information separated together so that you know what goes together. This one doesn't. You can see how that's not nearly as dynamic. So the basics are group like items together and they'll become a visual unit. And be sure that you're grouping related items together because if they have no meaning, then it'll be more confusing. The purpose of all this is to organize your design. Make it so your reader knows where to look and what they're looking at. Same as this. This is something, a poster maybe for somebody talking or something. I don't know what it is. But then we use proximity, and now it makes sense because it's a book cover. It has a title, and it has the subtitle, and then it has the author. Here, it has really no meaning. So you can see how proximity can bring sense to something that's kind of confusing. Okay, I'm just going to go over these really quickly. You can look back at the deck and see these for yourself. There is no hierarchy in this, so it's really hard to pick out what that is, except for that big car. You would have no clue. This one is just a hot mess. I don't even know what he's selling. I think he's selling cars, but why is that motorcycle so big? And what's with the paisley? I mean, seriously. That is just a dumpster fire. This makes me really sad. This is actually uh, art.yale.edu. So that's from Yale. That's their art school. That is really a hot mess too. And I haven't Googled it this morning, but when I made this PowerPoint, I did Google it, and it was still, this was the screenshot that I had. It's just not designed well at all. You'd think art students would do a little better, but anyway. So you put all of those together and you got contrast, repetition, and alignment and proximity. So just remember, good design is crap. Anyway, I wanted to show you a few more things. These are not, these are also design sort of theories, but just remember crap and you'll be able to get all this too. Balance is a very important thing. Knowing what's symmetrical, it means there's equal weight on both sides of the center line. Something that's asymmetrical, you've got something heavy on one side and you've got something really light on the other side, which can be very dynamic or it can be really lopsided. You have to just tread carefully with that. Um, there is a radial balance. Um, so you can see that's the shape we were making in Illustrator. It's a shape that's in nature. It's a real soothing shape, and you can see this repeated in lots of places. That looks like a snail shell to me. Then there's that same shape, and they call it the golden ratio. It basically it shows you how to divide up a design and where you need to put the concentration of the objects so that you can kind of you start the eye over here on the left, and then you get it circled into the most important part. That's used a great deal. So that's all I have to talk about. So did anybody have any questions?
Hmm.
No
I think
questions?
I think you explained everything pretty well. I think it
Let's
was
see who all we've got here. Um, we've got 7 participants. Oh, good, good. So all of you can access this later on. We're not going to have anything that you need to download. What I would like you to do, and let me see if I can get back to it. I'm sharing the screen right here. Let me see if I can get this back open. Oh, well, what have I done? I'm going to stop the share and then I'm going to do the share again. Sorry, it's just been really a long time since I've messed with using and actually having people watching what I'm doing. Okay, share options, 1 participant. Why are you not working? Here we go. Lab assignment, share. Okay, so the lab assignment, what I want you to do is I want you to look on the internet and find examples of design. You can just look at images. It can be photographs, it can be ads, it can be business cards, whatever is designed. Like I said, everything is designed. So I want you to find examples of contrast, repetition, alignment, all of those. And I would like to have 2 examples. What you can do is use a Word doc and just drag the image in it. And so when you're finished, email me the Word doc and you'll get credit for your participation and your lab exercise. So does
woo.
anybody have any questions about that? That'll just be due, let's say, uh, by the next class period. I don't spend hours and hours on this. Just find a couple of things that you think fit both all of those 7 things.
You
Does that
want
make
to when we have the logo, you want us to like write like a brief description on why we think it works?
all right?
Okay.
So everybody give me a thumbs up if that's what you understand. Thumbs up? Okay, well, I guess I'm having a hard time seeing any kind of response.
I'm giving a
All
thumbs up.
right.
This one is, don't worry.
So,
Yeah.
um, I'm just going to screenshot this. Okay, my free meeting ends in 10 minutes. Does anybody want to ask any questions about what we're going to be doing the next few classes?
Are we going to use the software next class, or are we just focused on?
Okay. I'll go ahead and tell you anyway. Thursday, we are going to talk about color. And then on Tuesday, we're going to talk about typography. And then a week from, well, then the next Thursday after that, we're going to get into InDesign. So we're not going to stay on these theories very long. I just wanted to give you all of this information before we started. Oh, I'm seeing some chats now. Okay. Okay, I got some thumbs up. Thank you very much. Oops. There we go. All right. Oops. Matt joined us a little bit late. I'm so sorry I didn't see you sooner, Matt. I'm going to let him join and then I'm going to stop because we've only got 8 minutes left before this thing's going to turn off. All right. So that's pretty much everything I had today. So y'all can go ahead and, uh, and let's see. I'm not really sure what I'm doing. Let's see. Waiting for room and waiting to chat. Okay. I think I've got everybody recorded. So y'all just send me your lab exercises and we'll be good. Okay. I guess he's having a hard time with his thing. Anyway, y'all can all go if you want to, and I'll just make sure that Matt knows what we're doing. I'll see you guys on Thursday.
Oh, I was gonna say, for whatever reason, I could not find my journal 5 last week. Like, I don't know where it was, but I just
Hey,
looked today
Matt.
and it was there. So I apologize that it's late, but I
Are you
swear I
there,
wrote
Matt?
it Thursday.
Hi, Matt. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah. I didn't realize we didn't have in-person class today, so I'm
Oh,
here.
I'm so sorry. It was muted for some reason. I apologize. So go ahead and say what you were saying.
For me?
Yes, Matt.
Oh, I didn't realize we didn't have in-person today, so I'm in class. So
Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, I recorded this, so I'll get it posted here shortly, and then you can look at it. We were just talking about the principles of design. So it's
okay.
a pretty quick watch, and there is a lab assignment at the very end. So I will post this also the deck so that y'all can get to that. So anyway, we're pretty much done. Oh, and there's Daniel C. Let me get him in there too. Is Daniel also in the class?
No, it's just me here.
Okay. Well, Daniel is coming in late. So let's see, Matt and Daniel. I took a screenshot when everybody was in before, so I want to make sure that I do have you down for having um, shown to come to the class. So never have a pen that's going to write well in this office. Okay. Hi, Daniel. We started at 9:30. So anyway, I've recorded this, so I'm going to get this up sometime this morning. So then you can watch it. There is a lab assignment. You can just email it to me whenever you finish it. It's pretty easy. So anyway, oops, that's pretty self-explanatory. If you have any questions, you can email me. But anyway,
Okay.
I've only got 5 minutes left before Zoom shuts me off. So anyway, if you have any questions, just let me know. And
This is
any-
the whole assignment here.
I'm sorry.
This is the whole assignment here, just everything on this.
Right. So it's just the different principles of design that we talked about is contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. And so you can watch the video or look at the deck to kind of see the examples of that. And then there's things that are symmetrical. I want you to get two examples of those, and asymmetrical, and then radial, which is that swirling thing that, let's see if I can, well, I can't go back right now. Anyway, pretty easy stuff. If you have problems with it, just let me know and we can talk about it on Thursday. All right. Well, I will see you guys
Um,
later.
I had a question too about the week 5 journal.
Okay.
Just I didn't see it anywhere on the blackboard on Sunday.
Hmm. Let me go check it. I have not looked. I could have put the wrong date on it. You know, that happens sometimes. So I'll just make sure that it's open. And if there's something wrong with it, I'll just send out an email. If not, I'll just email you. Okay.
Okay. All right.
All righty. Well, I will see y'all on Thursday.
All right. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Bye-bye.